So I'm going to introduce our guests. Let's see, let me go in order here. So first, over here on my left, we have Mario Wisdom. He is a dedicated business coach committed to helping small businesses thrive throughout the Shenandoah Valley. He works closely with entrepreneurs to build sustainable growth, refine strategy, and create long-term success. He is the president of the Northern Shenandoah Valley Rotary Club, where he leads initiatives centered on leadership, service, and community impact. He also serves on 2 community boards and is co-chair of the Top of Virginia Chamber Ambassadors, which helps strengthen connections between local businesses and the community. Throughout his career, Mario has partnered with a wide range of businesses, helping them clarify their vision, improve operations, and drive measurable results. So welcome, Mario.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Oh. So good. You guys are so generous. Then in the middle here, we have Joe Peters, who is our one alumnus tonight. So usually with Life on Tap, they are all alumni. This is an outside the box, meaning we have people from outside of Christendom who are coming to share about their work and their experiences. So Joe Peters graduated in 2019. He studied English at Christendom before earning a master's degree in industrial and organizational psychology, where he focused on company culture, specifically in small businesses. After years of working closely with founders, he saw a consistent pattern. Talented entrepreneurs and small business owners stuck doing everything themselves before they could afford a COO, a Chief Operations Officer. He founded Buzzywork Pro to solve that problem by building fractional COO-style support teams that help small business owners complete their high-level tasks at a rate they can afford. Joe lives in Front Royal with his wife and 3 children and remains actively involved in supporting the local business community. So, welcome, Joe. And fun fact, this is actually Joe's second Life on Tap that he has done. So he participated, probably 3 or 4 years ago at least. We did a recent grads panel for Life on Tap over in Killian's, and we fit like at least this many people in Killian's. It was a hot topic. Yeah, a lot more people were in the front row then, yes. Okay, and then finally we have Andy Gyurisin, is the director of the Small Business Development Center at Laurel Ridge Community College. Born in the hills of Pennsylvania, Andy brings a wealth of experience and a passion for community engagement. From leading the car sales division at Enterprise Rent-A-Car in Illinois to co-owning the beloved Winchester Book Gallery, Andy has built a career around supporting businesses and creating meaningful connections. His diverse background also includes work with the Alamo Drafthouse Cinema, Laurel Ridge Community College Foundation, and as a small business advisor here at the SBDC, making him no stranger to helping businesses grow and thrive. So, welcome, Andy. Yes. Thank you. So, to give you a little bit of background, Joe and I have known each other since before he graduated. He was my first graduating class when I started working here, and he was part of a group in town called BNI, Business Networking Initiative? International. And so it was a group of small business owners from the community that would get together and they would share referrals and say, hey, I know somebody who needs your service, and I have somebody who's looking for this, and here's what I can offer. And so Joe was a big part of that, and then he actually broke off recently and started his own group called Lead Share, and Mario attends that, so I met Mario there and worked with Joe there, and then Andy, I can't remember how we connected, but we met last year.
I called you on the phone.
He called me on the phone, and he said, I want to talk to you.
Yes.
So that's kind of the background, and when I was thinking about, actually it was after Andy and I discussed what the work he does, which he's going to share with you, I was like, you know what, our students really need to hear this, and this is, it's just really valuable information. And then I was like, who can I bring to also talk about other sides of it? So this may not have been evident from what I read, but I see Andy as our resource guy. Joe is the one who's like in the thick of it. He just started his own business within the past, 2 years probably. And then Mario actually coaches business owners. And so he's talking to business owners who have been doing it a very long time. And so they're gonna be able to offer a lot of different perspectives and good, tips and suggestions for you all. So let's start with, tell us about your current role, Andy, and how did you kind of get there?
Yeah.
First and foremost, let me tell you this, everyone. My highlight of the week is being up here with these two gentlemen, by the way. They are like innovators in their fields, and if you have the opportunity to talk to them afterwards, I highly encourage you to do so. Like Mario, I just met, but I feel like I've known him for years, and of course, Joe is a great resource within this community, so absolutely make sure you use those as best as you can. So, like Kristen said, I'm the director of the Small Business Development Center. I have sort of a unique and fun past. I grew up in Winchester, Virginia. I went to Hanley High School with that classic, and maybe you all will get this reference, George Bailey feel from It's a Wonderful Life, where I was like, I had the suitcase with all the stickers on it that said I was going to see the world, only to find myself returning back to Winchester and really starting my career in small business there. So I came back and owned the Winchester Book Gallery from '06. I married my elementary school sweetheart, and we are celebrating 25 years next year, which is really exciting. So thank you for the people in the front row who clap for that. So we owned that small business for 5.5 years, which was absolutely incredible. We bought it in '06. The economic downturn happened in '07. And then we had to sort of navigate how that was changing all that time. And so when we got out of owning the bookstore, we found some great owners. And I think really that's why that small business does really well, is because it takes on new ownership. Every couple of years, every 5 to 10 years, I went to go work for the Small Business Development Center. I took my knowledge that I had from the book gallery, went to go work for the Small Business Development Center, did that for 5 years, moved up to this rank of like assistant executive director, which I just pushed papers for someone who got paid more than I did and that sort of thing. But I had a blast. It was the dawn of sort of social media, so I was really helping people understand how social media could help their businesses, which was an incredible time. And then I had started this little film club at the Alamo Draft House. We went from 100 people to 4,000 people, and we were watching movies all the time. So I started working with the family that owns the Alamo Draft House for several years down in the Kernstown Commons area, Kernstown area. I decided after the pandemic I wanted to do more for our community, so I raised money for our community college, making sure our students could come to school, they could get the things they needed, they could cover any part of their rent in school or anything that we could help with. And so I did that for several years, and then the position of Small Business Development Center, full circle, came around. And so I said, you know what? I feel like I can do this. And so I decided to jump in, and I got the position January of last year. In fact, my first day of this position, which is a grant-funded position. The grant was cut immediately, which I was sweating profusely as people were like, congrats on your first day, but then everything turned around and we're back to where we are. So that was fantastic, but I'll always remember my first day, and you will always have challenges on your first day of whatever you choose to do. But I've been doing this now for about 2 years over at Laurel Ridge Community College in Middletown. If you've not been to the campus, I encourage you to come and visit, check out what we're doing and that sort of thing as well. But we see about 400 small businesses a year out of our office, which is absolutely incredible. Our footprint is Clark down to Shenandoah County over to Fauquier. So we serve about 5 counties and then 1 city is what we've got. So that's me in a nutshell, by the way. I got 2 cats, by the way, in case you're wondering about that. I had 3, but 1 recently passed away, which is very sad. But 2 cats is what I've got. I drive a Subaru. I love watching movies. That's what I love to do on my pastime.
Excellent. Thank you, Andy.
Yes.
I love that. All right, Joe, tell us about your position now and kind of how you got here.
Yeah, I just said the this morning.
Yes.
It's on?
Yes.
Nice. Sweet. Well, thank you, Kristen, for inviting me, and thanks, Andy, for the kind words. It's weird being up here. This is my first time in this room since it's not a chapel, so it feels almost wrong. But yeah, I'm Joe Peters. I went here in 2019. I always wanted to start a business since I was a little kid and had about 1,000 failures throughout my childhood of small businesses, but some of them better than other ones. But after I graduated here from Christendom, I wasn't really ready to start the business, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do it in. So I was looking for jobs in human resources, everyone's true dream, human resources. But all the jobs I was getting were deep in DC, and I wanted to stay as far away from DC as possible. So my friend, he told me about this position that was local Christendom grad ran here in Front Royal. So I tried it out. Said it wasn't really just HR, it was a little bit of everything. I had no idea what that meant, but when I got in, I realized it was literally just everything. So I ran everything from phone calls to marketing to human resources to operations, and I really enjoyed it. I really liked the versatilness of it. I really liked being able to figure out random admin positions or whatever came up. And during that time, I was networking a lot, as Kristen mentioned, through BNIs and stuff. And so I met a ton of small business owners. And over the course of that, people kept telling me or asking me to do random things, from running a Facebook ad for them or designing some Excel spreadsheet or some small business plan, whatever it was. And I'd do it, and afterwards they were like, we need someone like you for our company, but we can't really afford that yet. And so that's kind of where the idea came from, and I took that idea and ran with it, and started Buzzwick Pro a little over a year ago. And yeah.
Give us a little bit more about what you do in the role in your business.
Yeah, so small business owners will hire me to basically do anything that comes up in their business that's problematic in their admin side of things. So something goes wrong with their website, I fix it. If they need help getting more clients, then I'll do the marketing. If they want to do more automations or bring in AI, then we'll do that side of things. So really, it's kind of a fractional department for your small business till you're ready to have these people in your own company. So it's geared towards the startups and the entrepreneurs, small business owners.
Awesome, thanks. All right, so Mario, tell us a little bit about what you currently do and how you got there.
Yep. So Andy, thank you for those kind words as well. And if you don't know anything about Andy, everybody says go talk to Andy. He's a great guy. His glasses changes every single day. Great dude. And then Joe, he is a longtime friend, but let me jump into it.
Yeah.
So I am originally from Kingston, Jamaica. I moved here when I was about 3 years old, lived in Florida for a little bit, and I grew up in Fredericksburg, Virginia. Shenandoah University is the reason why I came up here, and I was playing football and everything. 2020, that was my last year there. I ended up having a internship with a credit restoration company, and I was with them for 2 years, and I realized that I did not like doing that. And then something told me one day to go out to a networking event, and I met a lady named Crystal Smith. She ends up being my mentor and teaching me everything about business coaching. That's also where I met Joe at a BNI, and basically we became friends after that. So I've been doing business coaching for about 3 years now, and I've been loving it. I love helping small business owners get to their goals and achieve the life that they always imagined when they started their business. And some of the things that we take care of in business coaching is essentially helping business owners overcome obstacles in the business. So me and Joe kind of work hand in hand. I refer him clients, and he does the same for me. And so, like, let's say if somebody does have a website problem, we can go through the website and say, hey, you need to fix X, Y, and Z. What usually happens is the business owner doesn't have that much time to take on those tasks, and that's a place for Joe to come in and takes off some of that burden off their plate. Am I missing anything? I guess also.
I was going to say you coach them, so you're meeting individually with business owners and having phone calls with them.
Yep. So we meet with our business owners once a week for an hour over Zoom, and we create a step-by-step plan to essentially help them get to their goals. And that can be from hiring to firing to a little bit of marketing, not to the same level as Joe, to building out processes and systems in their business. So basically making things repeatable tasks in their business so that if anybody comes into that role, they'll know exactly how it's done, and then boom, they're off to the races. I also live in Strasburg right now with my wife, Jessica. We've been together for 8 years. We have a little rabbit named Ruby. She tears up the place.
I love it.
That's it.
Awesome. Okay, thank you all for that kind of background on you guys. So Andy, tell me a little bit about the Small Business Administration, because how is that part of SBDC?
Yeah.
And what does that do for people who want to start a business?
Yeah, that's good. So the SBA, or Small Business Administration, is basically the grant funding portion of the SBDC. So if many of you are like, well, how much does it cost if I wanted to come and see Andy? The answer is free. There's no cost to come and see me. The services that we provide are absolutely free, and that comes from the SBA funding for SBDCs. There's 25 SBDCs in the state of Virginia. No matter where you choose to go, there will be an SBDC that services that area. We cover the entire state. There are SBDCs across the United States as well. So that SBA grant is not just for Virginia, it's actually for every state, and then every state can support their small businesses. So the SBA really funds us. And then what I have to do is go out into the community and find match dollars. So that's where those 5 counties I talked about and the city, they support us through match dollars. And so that's, in essence, if you live in this community, that's your tax dollars supporting us, which is why that service is, again, free, no charge for what we do. However, the SBA also is in the loan guarantee business as well. So if you find yourself as a small business owner and you have something along the lines of like machinery or some sort of like building that you would like to purchase, there's a program they offer called a 504. And it's, first of all, government agencies and their choice of numbers and that sort of thing, you'll probably leave and be like, what did Andy just say? But the way to think about it is this. 5 is 50% is guaranteed by the SBA. 4, which is the number on the other side of that 0, is promised by the bank, and then 10% or 504 is guaranteed by yourself. So it's a lower cost investment for a business owner to get, again, buy their building or buy collateral or buy their materials that they need and that sort of thing through that 504 program. So the SBA is heavily involved in that as well. They have another program called 7A, but that's sort of in a flux right now. The 504 is their big one. But most of the time, funding will go through your traditional banks that you work with and that sort of thing in your local community. But that's really what the SBA does, so to speak.
But you also talk to people who want to get started with a business.
100%.
And talk to them about a business plan,
Yes.
that kind of stuff?
Yes, so we help in 3 different avenues. One is the startup business. You come to me and you say, Andy, I want to go over to Front Royal and sell hot dogs every day, all the time. And I say, sure, let's make this happen and figure out how we're going to get all of these people serviced with hot dogs. Then the other one I do is like, oh my gosh, I've sold 6,000 hot dogs. How do I go to that next growth level? We help you with that as well. So we help you grow as you continue to develop. And then the big part that people don't think about is succession planning. So are all of you in this room going to take over maybe your parents' business? Or are you thinking about buying a business? How do we make sure that that business is at the best time selling when they should? Because oftentimes we see business owners that are like, I'm going to sell in 2 years. I'm just going to not go to any networking anymore. I'm not going to really do any sales. And their value of their business was up here, and then 2 years later, it's down here. So how do we make sure that we are talking to them about the best opportunity to get their money out? Because most of the time, that's going to be their retirement fund. So how are we going to make sure we do that? So we talk about succession planning quite a bit.
Okay, excellent. So Joe, talk to us about when you were deciding to start your own business. What did your business plan look like, and how did you get funding? Did you need funding when you're starting something that is, I think, remote, right? Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about starting that.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the first things I did was go and see Andy, actually. So.
Okay, great.
But I did have a pretty detailed business plan. I had come up with the idea a couple of years prior to actually starting the company. So there was a lot of planning involved and a lot of saving myself. I never personally wanted to get outside funding for the business. I wanted to own 100% of it, so really just kind of bootstrapped it. From a couple years prior, I started investing in a lot of income-generating assets so that I would be more prepared when that business started. not having the same income as once I actually started the business.
Can you explain what you mean by that?
So like rental properties, those are income assets. So if you buy a rental and you start renting it out, you're getting income from that. Or certain stocks, they provide dividends. Those are giving you income because it's not just rising stock, you're actually directly getting income in addition to that. So if you're investing in those, prepping for a time that you might have lower income, then you're going to be a lot more prepared for that time.
Okay. So Mario, do you talk to people who are just starting out as well and help them get funding and figure things out?
So we don't do the funding part. We like to work with the business owner that's got established already. So we like to talk to them after they set up their LLC, got their funding. They know how to generate leads, kind of thing.
Okay, great. So Andy, let's come back to you really quickly. Let's talk about funding and our friend Leslie Curley, who I was hoping could also join us tonight.
Yeah, Leslie's an incredible woman.
Yes, so she works for People Incorporated.
She does.
And can you tell us a little bit about what they do there? Because they offer funding. They
Correct.
actually provide funding.
Correct. So I don't work for People Incorporated. So if I say something and then you talk to Leslie and she says that's not true, you have to be aware of that right now. So People Incorporated is an alternative funding source. So typically you go to your bank or something along those lines to get funding. Sometimes the bank is a little concerned about the funding and they'll maybe say no. And so you can go to Leslie then and figure out a way to work with that. Typically she works with some folks who maybe are a little bit more credit challenged or maybe don't need a full amount, like maybe they only need $5,000 to $10,000 to $15,000 versus $100,000 to $150,000. So they're a little bit of a micro lender, although I think they're growing a little bit. And then they have a few grant programs as well. They have one right now for women-owned businesses where if you take a loan from them, you can get up to 1% of that loan as a grant if you are 100% or at least 51% female-owned, which is great to sort of see and thrive and that sort of thing as well. People Inc. covers a wide range of areas. I think they go all the way up to Clark, and then, of course, they service here in Warren and Shenandoah, and then all the way over to Fauquier as well. So you can find funding. But I do want to say something, Kristen. I'm going to take over this conversation real quick.
Please do, Andy.
I want to talk a little bit about what Joe just mentioned here real quick, because there are probably at least 8 of you in this room that want to start a business at one point in your life. And so the key of what Joe mentioned that I don't want to gloss over in any way, shape, or form are 2 things that you need. One is a business plan. It seems like the oldest thing in the entire world, but you need one. You need one for funding, first and foremost. If you want to go out and get money, the first thing the bank's going to ask you is your business plan. And then number 2, cash flow. Cash flow is the king of all things. If you come into my office and you say you want to start an idea, I will say yes, and I will champion you to the end of time. But if the cash flow tells you that it's impossible to do, then that's your plan of attack right there. We'll have to revamp and relook at it. But for any sort of funding, if you want to go out there and get funding from any bank, cash flow, profit and loss, and business plan is what you're going to need.
Okay,
100%.
excellent.
Can I add to that a little bit?
Yeah.
And so I'm actually using Leslie right now. And the reason why I'm using Leslie is because I'm trying to buy a certain type of business, but the business right now is not cash flowing. It's actually been losing money for the last couple of years. And so a normal bank will look at that and say, nope, we're not touching it. It's not a good investment. But Leslie, her bank essentially will touch that because the trucks itself is coming with the assets, so that the assets now will be collateral. So assets are basically things of value in the business.
Okay, thank you for explaining that. Yes. Okay, tell me Mario, tell me what mistakes you see business owners making, especially if they're just getting started.
I think one of the biggest mistakes that business owners make is not knowing that it's going to take longer than they think for the business to actually start ramping up. I would say 3 years is your point in business where you're like, okay, this thing will work, it'll make money, it'll take care of me and my family. Another thing as well is that I think sometimes business owners feel like they can just jump into business and maybe, I guess, not what's the word I'm looking for? Basically, what I'm saying is that you have to go out and start networking and introduce yourself to people, make sure that people know about you. And the more people that know about you and the quality of work that you do, the more people will refer your business out, and then you're going to start making more money after that. But there is a plethora of things that a lot of business owners can do to help their business when they first start out.
Okay. Yeah.
Can I jump in on this too?
Of course, yes.
Gosh,
please.
I love this microphone. So here is really, to add on to what Mario is talking about, here's what we need to think about. One, if any of you are thinking about starting a small business, the first question you have to ask yourself is, who is your customer? Okay, that's it. That's the first thing you ask yourself. Now, if you come into my office and you say to me, Andy, everyone is my customer, I will flip the table over and angrily Hulk out at you. Everyone cannot be your customer. I don't care what kind of business you own, everyone cannot be your customer. So I think about Trader Joe's. Has anyone in here been to Trader Joe's before? Thank you, good. So you know, when you talk about Trader Joe's, what they say is this: our customer is a retired college professor that drives an old Volvo. That's what they say. So what does that mean? That means that they're looking at a certain age demographic. The other thing they're looking at is that they are looking at education. And then the third thing they're looking for is that there's someone who's thrifty. Like they're not going to buy the newest car, they're driving their old Volvo. That's their customer. That's what their marketing is going to look for and target towards. So that's really the key that you all have to think about, is who is your customer. The other thing to think about as well is, what problem are you trying to solve? That is a really key element for any business owner right there. Just because you have a recipe that your grandma says is the best thing in the entire world is not always the best way to start a restaurant. What problem are you trying to solve, and what customer are you trying to reach? If the answer is just your grandmother every day, then maybe you've hit your right target audience right there. But you really have to think about it. The third thing, it's always money. It's always cash flow. People don't understand what cash flow is. Just because you have money in the bank doesn't mean that you're cash flow positive. And so we can have a huge conversation just about that, but that's something people just don't think about. They think because they have, they've taken on 4 contracts that's guaranteed $1,000, but those $1,000 aren't going to pay for 30 days. How do you cover your expenses for the 30 days? How do you make sure you have enough money to make that work until you get paid for those contracts? So you have to think about it, and a lot of business owners do not think about it. That's my rant.
Yeah, no, that was perfect. I love that. All right. Joe, tell us what kind of maybe mistakes you made when you were first starting out with your business, or what you have seen other people do.
Yeah, definitely. Mistakes.
Joe's perfect. He doesn't make any mistakes.
He hasn't made any. No.
I'm sure I have. I'm completely blanking. No. Let's see. When I started, well, this wasn't necessarily a mistake, but it was something that I wanted to do that probably held back the success a little bit. Right off the bat was I had been with my previous employer for 6 years, and it was a really great job, and I really liked the employer. And so I didn't tell a single soul I was starting the business except for my wife and leaving that company until I told my boss. And that could have gone really badly if he was like, walk out that door right now, you know? But thankfully, he did support me through it, and I was able to continue working for him and training my replacement while slowly developing my business and bringing in clients right off the bat. So that was really nice kind of luck right there that it worked out. Yeah.
Okay. Mario, what tips do you have when somebody is preparing to launch a business? I mean, you don't necessarily work with them all the time in that aspect of it, but what tips would you have now that you've seen a lot of people go through the process?
I'll say budget. Make sure that your budget is good for your business. So as your business starts to grow, start putting away money for marketing because you don't want to do that forever in your business. Start putting away money for a bookkeeper, A bookkeeper is basically somebody who handles your finances. You want to put away money for all the people that you can use in your business for later so that you're not doing all the work, because the longer you do all the work in your business, the more tired and stressed out you're going to be. So I will say that is a good thing.
Okay, I really love that. Yeah. And so when you're first starting out, you hire Joe to do all of those little tasks for you until you can save up enough money to hire somebody full time for that. And I guess I did not prepare you for this question at all. Do you see business owners, especially when they're, a few years in, they've been doing everything themselves, how often do they stop doing the thing that they love, that they started the business for? Have you seen that happen where they love making hot dogs and then all of a sudden they can't make the hot dogs any longer because they have to do all these other aspects of the business?
Well, to be completely honest, what I see is people want to hold on to their job. They don't want to stop making the hot dogs. They actually want to keep making the hot dogs, and that actually causes a problem because they're not ready to delegate to anybody else within the business. And now, guess what? If something happens to them, either they're sick, they go on into surgery or whatever else, the business starts to crumble because everything's all in their head, and business can't run if it's all in your head, right? So I think it's the opposite problem. They don't want to let go of anything.
Okay, that's
I
helpful.
would also say that I think the other thing that is important to think about when we talk about this is the business you start may not be the business you have in 2 years. You are often in, what's the word I want to use? Like, you're often at the service of your community. So you may say to yourself, I want to sell hot dogs every day because we've kept with this hot dog
We might as well.
for the entire time. However, every customer that comes in through your door says, I really wish you served hamburgers. And so you then have to learn what is most important. Your business is what's at heart. What you're selling in your service could flux, could change, could grow and develop even further. That's where we go back to sort of, what Joe was talking about a little bit, which is your business plan. Your business plan is not something that you all would do and then throw into a file cabinet and hope one day when you're 50 years old, you bring it back out and show your grandkids. It is something that you use every single day of your business to make sure that you're on track, but then also making sure that if there is a change of your business, meaning that customers are asking for hamburgers or they're asking for extra, whatever it is. I'm so hungry right now. What you do is you change and adjust your business plan based on that. So that's really the key element for your business plan, is that it is where you get started, but it could, over the years, evolve and change and grow. And yours probably did as you started as well.
Yeah. Can you tell us more about your business plan and what does that look like? What's in it?
Yeah. That's a big thing. Originally, when I started this idea, I really didn't think a lot of people would get it, and still I don't think a lot of people do completely understand it. So I had a separate marketing package. I had separate kind of products throughout it, and that way, if someone didn't understand it, I could sell them on something else. And so I started out really broad, was able to sell them whatever product I thought would fit for them. But it ended up being a lot of people did understand it, so I was able to cut kind of the non-essential products, getting rid of them and just sticking with my original plan. And it is true, if you don't look at your business plan in 3 or 4 months, you'll take a look and be like, what was I talking about here? And you're crossing out half of it. Just random ideas that go in your head, you're adding to your business plan while you're writing it. It's kind of like going to the grocery store when you're hungry. It's just you don't need half of that food, right? But when you're writing your business plan, you think of these ideas and they sound really good in the moment, and so you're putting them in there, and then next week when you're going through it, you're like, I'm not doing that.
That's important.
Yeah.
And can I add something? So, as Joe was speaking, it clicked into my brain. One of the biggest things for a business owner when starting out is your pricing. Making sure that you are priced towards the market, because what's going to happen is if you have a lower price, first is good because you're going to generate customers. You need to get some testimonials. You're going to need some work to make you money. But after you start to hire employees, your expenses is going to go up. So how much it costs to run a business is going to go up a lot more. And if you don't raise your prices with your expenses, essentially you're going to be underwater. You're going to, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for?
Not, go
You're going to
bankrupt.
be underwater.
You're going to be in the
more
red.
than you can pay for.
Yeah.
And so I guess with Joe's point as well, with him cutting certain products or services that he had, he realized it wasn't profitable. So cut out the unprofitable services, focus on the profitable ones, the ones that make you money, and you'll be good to go.
80% of your sales will come from 20% of your items. So let's say I owned a bookstore that had 1,000 items in it. Only 200 of those items are going to be where I generate the most of my money from, or somewhere in that math number. The other thing to think about is with all of this, especially when we're talking about pricing, it is extremely easy to price something and go lower. It is very hard as you build a customer base to go higher. So the two things you always have to think about is don't price things based on what you think the local market will allow. Obviously, do a little bit of research, find out what will work, but actually price things based on what you believe the value should be. We live a lot of times in a Costco mentality where everything has to be the cheapest, but the truth is a small business is offering more than just price. They're offering quality, they're offering customer service, they're offering something that's more. In fact, I would rather buy my vinyl record that I want to buy from my local record shop than from Amazon any day of the week. The guy knows me, he knows what I like, there's this customer service. And when I pay him money, which is typically more expensive than it would be on Amazon, I'm actually investing in his livelihood or her livelihood as we move forward. So always think about pricing in terms of what is your value? I work with artists every day of the week, and they come in and they say, I've just made this piece, I spent 20 hours on it, I'm gonna sell it for $40. And I look at them and I say, you are making less than minimum wage based on this. Make sure you understand your value and what you should be worth, put it forward. If you find and talk to customers and they're like, I can't pay that, have a conversation with that customer. We often hear that no and immediately just walk away. But the truth is there's something else going on with that customer, and if we can learn from that, maybe it's they can't afford the piece of artwork right now, but if we were to spread the price over 3 or 4 months, suddenly they can afford it. So we really just need to make sure we stop and listen and talk to folks, but also understand not to go back on who we are and the quality that we provide on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think looking at when you're pricing items, actually looking at your margins and finding those is way more
What's a
important.
margin?
Oh, sorry.
Explain that, yes.
So you want to know where your profits are going to be. So you're going to take numbers and you're going to try and find how much am I going to have left after I'm spending it on employee costs or salaries, operations costs, whatever I'm spending in my business. I want to know that number that's left over. And I want to know that that number is going to be big enough to support me as I'm growing. So those are going to be the more important numbers to focus on. And so if someone down the street is selling the same product as you for $1,000, but if you sell it for $1,000 and you're not making any profit, you still can't sell it for that even if the competitor's doing. You have to change something. You have to make sure that you have the right numbers in your business for that.
Okay. Anybody who wants to take this question, talk about profit and loss statements. So I feel like it was mentioned at least twice already. So what does that look like? When do you prepare that? How often? I think somebody mentioned it at the beginning. You want to take that to a bank. So.
Go ahead, Andy.
Yeah, Andy?
So profit and loss, it is basically the heartbeat of your small business, okay? So you're gonna be able to look at it and say, we are a profitable business based on the margins that we've created, or for many small businesses, when you first begin, it is a loss that you're taking. And it's basically because you are building up that customer base. So you are looking at your profits and loss for that business as an overall. There's a couple of things you have to think about when we talk about profit and loss a little bit. One is, I often work with clients that come in through the front door, and the first thing that they say is, look at my sheet, this is day one, and then by year one, I'm gonna be all the way up here. And every slide they show me is a direct, like, right angle going straight up into the air. Like, every month, every day is going to be profitable. When in truth, every sort of like cash flow projection or profit and loss statement should show this ebbs and flows.
Seasonality.
Absolutely. We get snowed upon in this area. You typically may not have a customer that comes in the door. That's going to be a slower period. If you are someone who thrives on Q4 because of the holidays, that is going to be bigger than typically right before the holidays, which is going to be a little bit lower. So always think about it in terms of that ebbs and flows for your business. And any bank will prefer to see those ebbs and flows than just a straight up. If you go into a bank and show someone that you're just going to make profit from the very beginning, they are going to laugh at you. And it's not going to be like a good laugh. It's going to be like an embarrassing, you'll walk out of the bank never wanting to return laugh again. Just think about that. And then the other thing, I love talking about this, but the thing you have to think about is this. When you're thinking about your ebbs and flows like that, when do you think you should be doing your marketing? At the bottom of the flow or at the top of the flow? Oh man, this isn't the hardest question we have, by the way. So let me say this, I'll tell you this. Often people think it's at the bottom because you're at your lowest point, you need more people coming in the doors. You've got to make sure. I will tell you right now, you should be doing your best marketing when you're at your top, when you're at your peak. Why? Because then you will slowly diminish that valley that's about to happen, okay? If you do your marketing at the very bottom of that valley, you're already moving up. Why would you spend all of that knowing that you're moving back into that direction? So at the very top, when you're at your busiest, when you want to think about marketing at the least, is when you should be doing your marketing. And that was a complete tangent from the profit and loss, but I just wanted to bring that up because I love talking about that.
Yes.
Well, also a random thing about marketing, in addition to that, all of your competitors are going to be advertising at the same time when you're at your lowest. And so the cost per ad spend is going to be a lot more. Every link click to your website, every marketing dollar is going to be way less valuable when you're marketing down here because everybody's doing it. But when you're up top, when you're really busy, it's really cheap to market because there's way more searches, there's way more people active in your business, and so it's very cheap to be targeting during that period.
Okay. So Mario, can you talk to us about growing a business? So that's typically what you help your clients do. You're talking about how do we scale this? How do we make it bigger? How do we help you grow? So talk to us about that process. What advice do you give them?
So I think the first thing you need to understand is what is the difference between growing and scaling. So growing is all about getting to capacity. So let's say that we have a lemonade stand. If you make lemonade, a pitcher of lemonade, and you only sell half of that pitcher, should you go make some more lemonade? No. You should wait till you can sell all that pitcher of lemonade before you go make some more. And so scaling is essentially getting 2 pitchers of that lemonade, buying another stand, hiring another person to help you, X, Y, and Z. So I think you have to first get to capacity by growing your business, and that's by basically getting more business, such as doing your marketing, figuring out where can I decrease expenses, and X, Y, and Z. Really, that's all that's there. And then scaling is hiring people, buying new equipment, things like that, for the most part.
And then with scaling or growth, where do businesses see more income?
And, that's kind of interesting. So as you start to scale your business, it seems like you're not making as much money, and that's because you have more expenses and overhead in your business. But at the very beginning, like if it's just you as a one-man show, you go out there and do all the jobs, you can keep more of the money, versus now you have to pay your employees and taxes and everything else. But eventually you will hit a what we call a break-even point where you will make a lot of money, but it's going to take a little bit of time to get there. Okay. I don't know if you guys want to add on to that at all.
And when you, did I turn off? I think I did. Oh, no, I'm back. Okay. When you say it could take a little while, so you talked about, year 3 after you start a business, that's when you really start to see, okay, this is a solid thing, it's going to work. And then how many years is it typically to see growth or scale?
It's different for every business. Let's take a landscaping business. Let's say at year 3 they hired a couple people. Year 4, 5, and 6, they hired people and they bought new equipment. That equipment is you're still paying off the loan, and so as you move into your last couple years, the loan's going to be paid off or you refinance. So that's less money that you're paying towards that equipment or towards that loan. Now you have more money, more profit in the business, which you can do more with. So it depends on how fast you can pay down the loan that you use to hire people or buy equipment.
Okay,
usually.
that's super helpful.
And the key for that growth is, so often we are thinking about our 5-year plan for business. I think that's really a roadmap for what you want to be doing as you develop your business idea and plan. You want to sit down and say, okay, in 5 years, I want to be making $1 million. So what do you need to do in year 4 to make that happen? What do you need to do in year 3 to make that happen, year 2 and year 1? And then really what you can do is use that as your roadmap then to try to figure out how I can take on clients and hit milestones so that I'm getting to these goals that I'm looking for. And so that 5-year plan is something that you would develop almost when you first are starting, and then every year you adjust and figure out what it is you want to change or adapt or evolve so that you can make sure you're hitting your goals each and every year, which is really cool.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't prepare any of you all for this question, but I just thought of it. What about taxes? Like, how does that work? Obviously, you all are not tax professionals,
Nope.
but how are you talking to business owners? Joe, what are you thinking about when you're going through your year? How do you write things off on taxes, et cetera? So.
I actually think one of the biggest mistakes small business owners do is try and write off as much as possible of their personal expenses. And it does save them a couple bucks on their taxes. Like, they're trying to write off every meal, even though it's personal, write off anything they can. Because when you're writing this off, it's taking down your income and taxes, so you're not going to have to pay as much. But it creates a major problem going forward, because when you're looking at your profit, when you're trying to calculate your job expenses, you are trying to calculate this, but also have these kind of fluffed numbers added in. You want to be as accurate as possible anyways for the taxes, but just for that alone, it's really annoying to try and go back and figure out, what is my actual job cost? How can I make this profitable? If I'm adding a random pizza purchase 2 years ago in this job, like, that doesn't make sense at all. So for taxes, yes, write off as much as possible for actual business expenses. So then it'll lower your income, and then that way, when you're paying taxes, you're only paying on the lower income. But it's just not worth it. You're not going to save enough if you try and fluff those numbers, in my opinion.
Yeah. And this one's from experience as well. Make sure you're paying your taxes quarterly, or at least putting money away for your taxes. Because I remember when I first got into business, I made a good amount of money. I did not put money away, and I got hit with like a $4,000 bill at the end of the year, and I was like, I can't pay this right now. And so now that put me behind, and then I had to play catch up moving forward. So just remember to put that away as you're going throughout the year.
So let's talk about taxes a little bit more.
Please.
Kristen. I love
It's so exciting.
This is a crucial part for any of you that want to do this. First and foremost, most of us will start an LLC. That is a limited liability corporation. That is, you can either be a sole proprietor or an LLC. LLC will give you a little bit more liability protection in the long run. We could talk about that ad nauseum. What an LLC is, though, is a pass-through entity. So Virginia doesn't have double taxation. You're not going to be taxed on your business and then taxed on yourself. Any profits or loss that you make on that business is going to pass through to your personal taxes, whoever the owners are, so to speak of. It'll pass through to that. So if you make $10,000 in your business, you have to realize that on your personal taxes, you're going to owe $10,000 because that is a pass-through entity on that side. So you need to think about it in terms of profit and loss. That's why we so often hear businesses that are like, I need to spend more because I'm trying to lower our profits so that it doesn't necessarily hit us on the personal side. The other thing you have to think about as well is that so many of us, as small business owners, we want to pull money out. We want to take a owner's draw. We want to make our money as well to cover our rent and that sort of thing as well. But an owner's draw is basically you're just taking money out. Let's say you need $1,000 to cover your rent. Great. It's not like you've just gotten a paycheck, though. Paycheck will have all your taxes removed from it. So if you take out an owner's draw, please remember to always hold 20 to 30% off to the side for your taxes. So not only will you have taxes that are going to be due on the profit or loss of the business, but then any of your owner's draws that you've taken out as well are going to be considered income. This is the most riveting conversation in the entire world. But it is where so many business owners get just confused because they think business is one thing and I am another thing. But the truth is there is a little bit of a connection there, especially as you have that LLC that is a pass-through entity.
Oh, that is so helpful to know. I had no idea. Okay. Before I turn it over to you all to ask a few questions, what is one kind of last bit of advice or thing that we didn't end up talking about today that you had hoped to share that you want to pass along to them as they're thinking about working in business, going into business for themselves, maybe even, going into business with a partner, as in just like a friend partner, not necessarily a spouse partner, but any advice? What do you got?
Definitely try and get out there and meet people outside of the Christendom circle. The people that brought me up in business the most were not people from the college. They were people that I just met around town, like these two. And I have a lot of people that are not Catholic and just are from the community that refer me a ton of work, and I work really well with them. And they also can help you from a business perspective in their different fields as well. So don't be afraid to get outside of that circle after you graduate, because a lot of people, I don't think, do that very well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, Mario, what do you got for us?
I think the biggest thing is to just have faith. I love that I'm with Bible, Jesus believing people. But business gets lonely. You are doing it by yourself, especially when you hire employees. You're like, I can't really tell them everything that's going on because they need to trust you and feel like you're competent to run the ship. You can't necessarily tell other business owners because you probably want their business. So it can get really lonely, and you're gonna have a whole lot of ups and downs. So emotionally, you're gonna have to be there. Just have faith. Just know that everything will work out as long as you keep on going and you believe in the Lord. Like He is gonna see you through literally everything. That's 100%. I put that on everything. Have faith.
Thank you. All right, Andy, what's one
Yeah,
last?
so I'm going to go a little bit aside from what Mario said and say, tell everyone. We as business owners sometimes just become into ourselves, so to speak of, and so often I have folks that come in that says, I haven't told anyone about this because I'm afraid someone's going to steal my business. First of all, 90% of the time that's not going to happen. 95% of the time that's not going to happen. No one's going to have that exact same energy and excitement you have for this product, nor have someone been thinking about it for the past 5 years like you have. So for me, the big thing is use the resources that are around you for your business. The biggest thing is the community that you have. Not just the community here, hopefully the people that you've been networking and connecting with. Many of I graduated from Roanoke College. I still connect with some of those folks that I graduated with, just as we've continued to grow our businesses and our families. I just like to know what they're doing, and I never know when I could use their services or their expertise. And then within the community, I have a different philosophy when it comes to competition. I think competition died during COVID. I actually think the biggest thing we have right now is how can we be more collaborative within our partnerships, especially within small rural communities like we have here in Front Royal and Warren County. So for me, it's not a question of when I owned the bookstore, someone would always come up to me and say, Andy, what would happen if someone else would own a bookstore or open a bookstore right next to you? And I would say to them, I cannot wait. I would love it. Why? There's more people shopping for books then. That's why when you go down to a downtown area, there's 50 to 60, maybe not that many, 5 or 6 restaurants that are all open down there because they're all trying to capture that same sort of audience. Now, there's 2 things I can do if a bookstore opened up next to me. I could get angry and make it a very much of a spite conversation, or I could go over to them and say, how can we partner? And in fact, a bookstore did open when I owned the Winchester Book Gallery, and they chose to bring in, and what their big thing was holistic books. And that was something I didn't know a lot about. And so they said, we don't know anything about fiction, Andy. We would rather send our customers who want fiction over to you if you could refer people to us. And suddenly that idea of competition absolutely changed. And if you go back home and you just try to figure out who to partner with in any community, you're going to be impressed by who wants to open that door and wants to collaborate. Now, there's going to be some older people that are like, no, you're going to steal my idea. Find those folks that are energetic and excited about what you're doing. They're going to want to support you, and people will want to support you within your community. I think that's key.
Okay, thank you so much. Maria, I just realized she wasn't out here yet with the microphone.
For the question.
Yeah, we are ready to take questions. So thank you all for sharing all of that advice and everything. I'd love to know from you all what you want to know from them. Come on forward, Maria. Who has a question who wants to ask?
Let me
first?
address the elephant in the room real quick, if that's okay with all of you.
Yes.
2.5 weeks ago, I got sick. I got some sort of disease from Williamsburg, Virginia. I was down there. When I got sick, I was supposed to have a haircut, and I didn't get it. And I can't seem to get another appointment, so I don't know what's going on with this right now. So I'm just addressing that right now in case your first question was, what is going on with Andy's hair? I don't know, and I can't get this appointment. It is the worst time of my life right now.
Can anybody in
has a
here cut
better
hair?
question?
I was going to say, can anybody in here cut hair? We can get you an
Yeah, who
appointment
can
tonight.
cut hair, by the way? I need a good fade.
Okay,
on.
nobody's here tonight, but I know we have people. Okay,
That's-
who's
I know
got
that.
an actual question for our panelists tonight? Okay,
Yeah.
over here. Claire. And if you don't mind standing up so we can see you and hear you.
And give us your name, too. That would be great.
Yeah.
My name is Claire, and I do sewing. So
Fantastic.
I am interested in starting a business with handmade products. And I'm thinking that would be something online, like an online shop, maybe something through Etsy. So how do you recommend going through like the initial marketing of that? Would that be like making a social media presence, creating a presence on social media, or something else that you suggest?
Oh yeah, we didn't even talk about really the online versus in person. So,
Yeah.
Joe?
So definitely there's really easy ways to make a website nowadays. Definitely just get some kind of website going right off the bat. But for a specific product like that, you're really going to want to start off with some of those major social media platforms, mainly probably Instagram as an initial start. You can go through Etsy. There's just so much competition through that you're not going to do as well, I think, if you go through Instagram. But what's nice about Instagram is it actually contains SEO, which is search engine optimization. So in addition to your website, you're also getting those search results through Instagram. So the more you're developing your page on Instagram, you're going to show up on Google a lot better. There's a lot of really easy tricks that no marketer even does for people's websites to get yourself ranking right off the bat. But you actually do have to tell Google you have a website, or they're going to take a couple years to actually find out that you have a website, which nobody knows that you're supposed to do. So you just need to basically go into Google and tell them, hey, search my website now, rather than wait till you naturally find that website.
Mm-hmm. And I will say, I connected with somebody last fall who has started an app called Catholic Owned. And anybody who has any type of business, it could be, you're a doctor and you have a doctor's office. You could have a business where you're selling a written product, you're selling content, you're selling books, sewing projects, etc. You can register on there as a Catholic-owned business, and then you can be found by other Catholics who are searching for a Catholic-owned business, which I would say possibly is something, I don't know enough about SEO, but putting words in there that you want people to find. And so if your products are Catholic, putting the name or the word Catholic in your website and materials will help you be found. So yeah. Did you have something else to say on
Yeah,
online?
like something like that, Catholic owned, you're also going to get a backlink to your website. You're going to get someone linking to it, which builds authority, and that's how you're going to show up better. Catholic owns, it's only $50 a year, I think,
Yeah.
something crazy cheap to be on there. And for reference, like a backlink, if you're going to try and buy them, which I don't recommend you buy them, but you can get a backlink for like $560 or something. So if someone's offering you one for $50 a year, a good one, then that's a pretty good deal. So yeah.
Okay. Did you all have any input on online business?
Go for it.
Well, not necessarily online business, but with the sewing, don't just think of it as just sewing. Like, you can expand out. You can create a course on how to sew. You can even create a community. Communities are going to be very big in the future, especially with everything that's happening with AI. People is going to want to gather together. So like, you can literally have just a sewing community where you get over Zoom or in person. You just start sewing together, talking about a certain topic, and yeah, you can make money like that. Just charge entry fee.
Sure. So expanding the offerings
Yeah.
to not just be the actual product that you're selling. Yeah.
Claire, have you ever seen the film Field of Dreams? Okay. Has anyone in this
you should.
place seen Field of Dreams? Yes.
Okay, a few.
So it's a Kevin Costner movie where this cornfield basically says to him, like, if you build it, they will come. It's actually, if you build it, he will come. But a lot of us think the phrase is they will come.
Yes.
And it is a bold-faced lie that they've told us. So there is too much out there right now that if you just put a website out there, that if you just put social media and expect people to find you, they're not going to. So what you will need to do then is also go outside of the social realm, farmers markets, other places that are within your community that cater, if there's a knitting group or a sewing group or anything along those lines, if there are small businesses that may want to carry one or two of your products, or anything along those lines that you can refer people back to your Etsy shop or back to your website, that is crucial for what you've got. More so than just like, I have an online presence, why aren't people coming? Because I see clients like that every day that's like, why aren't people coming our way? And the thing to think about when we talk about social media, if you had a sewing business and you had 50,000 followers, I'd be like, I don't care. I don't care at all. If you had 10 followers and you put a post out there that said, buy this new piece of sewing material that I just bought, or whatever I made, and 10 people bought it, fantastic. You're doing the job. If you have 50,000 and you make that same post and not one person connects with you, what are we doing? It's not about the likes and followers, it's about the engagement and how strong that is. So when we think about it, don't just think about it like, I'm gonna put my content out there, I'm gonna put my content. How are you crafting like Mario said, a community with all of that, so you have that engagement that you've got. So really think about, like, what's my marketing plan gonna look like? What's my strategy gonna be? And how can I make sure that if someone like myself, who's so old right now, he's not anywhere near social media these days, how will you reach me? How will you find me if I'm your target audience? Facebook right now is 45 to 65-year-old women. Is that our target audience? Is Instagram the target audience? Is LinkedIn the target audience? And there used to be this philosophy where it was like, I'll be on everything. We can't. We cannot. Claire, there's not enough time for us to be on everything. Find the one that hits your target audience, that identified customer, and be the best you can be on that. And be the pro at that. And then don't go anywhere else.
Yeah.
That's the key I've got.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, Maria, we've got one down here in the middle. Yes. Oh, and
Look at
we've
this.
got two more over
I
here.
knew if we eliminated the hair question, more would show up. I knew that was going to be the case right there.
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah.
So my question is, well, I guess for context, I'm very much into music. I play several instruments. I like to record and, publish my own music. I'm very interested in the music business. But I guess with the advent of AI, and I guess this goes for many other, artistic fields as well, like the visual arts and others, how can you stay relevant as a real person creating real art and trying to sell that as something for people to have and to listen to or look at or whatever it is? How can you stay relevant when there are robots who are, can do the same thing as you more or less in like 5 seconds, and they're only getting faster and better at it? So how can you still market yourself when you have this competition that's not even real?
Great question. Do we have answers?
Well, I think this answer is also that change kind of over and over again over the next couple months. It's like the stuff I was doing for my previous company. I'm not using any of those softwares that I'm using today. They're constantly changing, constantly new softwares. But as of now, like as of today, there's definitely it's definitely hurting the more AI that you're putting out there. So like on social media platforms, if you're using AI, Google's actually registering that and it's docking you points if you're using AI on your website or on your any kind of images like that. It's docking it. So the actual real content is actually being pushed up higher. So as of today, you still have a chance there. But I'm not promising that that's not going to change in a couple months.
Yeah. You know, I think, what was your name? Nate? Excellent. Nate, what I would also just think about is people for music. That's what we are going to be focused on. So when I was growing up, and this is again 1,000 years ago, there was an artist in Charlottesville by the name of Dave Matthews. And what Dave did was he went to, his circle of influence was the Charlottesville area, and that was it. And his big thing was making sure the people of Charlottesville supported and helped him, and then continued to branch further and further out. So it's more than just how will AI change it and what will social media do, but how are people recognizing me as the artist is really the key element there. We often think to ourselves, okay, we need to be as big as possible on day one, when in truth, we need to throw that pebble in the pond and watch the ripples start to form. And so really the question is how do you become, like almost what I told Claire, how do we become the professional in that one spot and then look at our 5-year plan and grow it from there. The other thing to really think about is how do we make sure you're putting your worth out there? It's a lot like the artists that I talked about. Make sure that when you talk to folks about playing or performing or anything like that, you understand what that worth is. And if you're going to play for 2 hours, you're going to get more than $40 for it. That's a key right there. But think about people, think about the connections in this room and how you can maybe use that to strengthen your music. Because we, in the future, will need music like crazy. So I'm excited by what you're bringing to the table.
Yeah, thank you. All right, up here, Maria.
Hello, I'm Amy Linton. I wanted to ask, how would you say you manage both business and a job, if you can juggle both? Or
Do you mean like how are you working a day job while you're building a side business until the side business can take over? Okay, yeah, Joe.
That's me. So I only did it a very brief time while I had very low business. So I might not actually be the best one to speak on it. Okay. But I think it'd be easier for me to like address work, family. I think it's all like, you just need to set parameters in it. I knew when I started this business that I was gonna have to work way more hours than I was used to before, but setting criteria right off the bat is very helpful. So I said, I'm gonna lock in from 5:30 till 10 o'clock, and that's time for my kids and my wife. If I didn't finish everything else that day, from 10 o'clock to 2 a.m., I'm working. And that's happened a lot lately. But that time is set. That's my family time, and I knew that going in. And it's not changing no matter what. So I think that's the same thing with work and building a business is you set those hours apart from that. And it's literally just time management. You'd be amazed how much you can accomplish if you even just write down that schedule and block that time off on your calendar.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Do either of y'all have?
You have something, Mario? I got something. Are you sure? Yeah. We all will have a side hustle. Every single one of us will have a side hustle in our lives. There's no question. I have a side hustle as well. So 2.5 years ago, my wife decided to leave her job as a teacher because she just wasn't happy, and she wanted to go back to selling books. And so she was like, can I have can we pull 500 out of savings for me to go to like thrift stores, find books, and then resell them online? We had an eBay account that wasn't doing anything. I said, sure, that's not a problem. This was 2023. This was in June of 2023. November of 2023, she comes to me and is like, we have a major problem. I was just like, oh my gosh, we're going to need more money. What's the problem? She's like, no. We've made $15,000. Oh my goodness. And so over the last 2.5 years, we have almost built a $50,000 business on this side hustle that I have of reselling items from thrift stores. I hang out with T-shirt bros. I hang out with all of these sort of guys that do this on a regular basis. And so what we do is that we work during the day. We spend, like exactly what Joe said, we spend 2 to 3 hours a night just working on it. We see it as our time. We are no kids or anything like just those cats I mentioned earlier.
Just the two.
That's right. But so we do that, and then we actually, on the weekends, it's our hobby, so to speak of. We love doing it. We love going out there. We go to book sales. We do all of these sort of things. And we are now in year 3 of doing all of this. And it's been absolutely incredible to do it. And our house, like if we ever died and you all were to peek inside of our house, it would be terrifying, by the way. We have so much
Look a little like
stuff.
a hoarder.
We're a bit on the hoardering side. But we love it. We love doing it.
Mario, did you think of something to share?
Well, I guess I would just say automation. Try and just automate literally everything that you can. Get the computer to do everything. And the more that you can get the computer to do, the better off you'll be. Less work you got to do.
Okay. All right, one last question up here. Sorry, Justin.
Hello, my name is Matthew, and I actually had 2 questions. First of all, you mentioned your employer being involved with you growing your business. So my first question is, would you ever recommend, if it's a possibility, working with your employer in your new business directly? And second, if I want to go into a business that involves, like I had this idea of like having like a business that does tech detox retreats, where it's like you go and you get an experience. So unlike networking, like advertising products online, is there a better way to go about advertising something that's like more abstract, I guess, like an experience?
Okay.
So working with your employer, I think it really depends on what you guys are both doing and your relationship with your employer. I had a really good relationship with mine, and really there was a lot of trust there. But even if you are starting it with an employer and you really trust them, I would make it very clear, even if it's your best friend you're starting it with a business with, you need to legally figure out what percentage you guys are both having. You guys need to make that operating agreement, and you need to organize all of that right off the bat. Because maybe you're best friends now, but who knows later on. Not that I've had this experience at all, but I've seen it happen. So that's all I'd say on that. Like, it really depends. I know a lot of people that have worked with their bosses as partners as they've developed parts of their business that their boss isn't offering. And so they're connecting it with their current employer's company. And then eventually they kind of leave off. I've known a lot of people that have done that. I didn't do that because it was a very different industry that I was in. But yeah.
Okay, what about his second question about advertising something more abstract, like an experience versus a product?
I got you. What was the product one more time?
Detox.
I think first thing you'd have to do is, like Andy says, really identify your target market there. But also utilizing the Christendom community like crazy right off the bat. That gives you such an advantage. For example, we actually have a Catholic men's group here in town called Artifacts. We have a Shark Tank style pitch night coming up in 2 months where actual real angel investors are going to be watching startups come up and pitch their product, and the winner wins an opportunity to meet with those angel investors and possible investments. So there is so much just from the Catholic community that there is to offer. People will buy your product and use you just to support other Catholic businesses right off the bat. So you have a huge advantage right there. But yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there's a fourth person on this panel that is a valuable resource for you, and that's Kristen over here. Make sure that as you're growing and developing and thinking about your business, that you always reach back out and connect, because you never know who her path is going to be connecting with that could connect with your business. I check in with Roanoke College often. I mean, maybe like once every 6 months or something like that, just to let them know what I'm doing, but then also if there's potential future alum or past alum that I could connect with in some form or another to support my business. So I think it's great that she is up here as well, and that she is a fantastic resource for you to have within this college.
Thank you. Mario, you were going to say?
I would say sell the transformation, sell the result. Are you always feeling tired? Are you always sleepy? Do you always feel like anxiety? That's because you're on your screen all the time. Come to this detox and you will feel refreshed. You'll have a clear mind, and just sell it like crazy. And I think people will be drawn to it, especially in the world that we live in now.
Absolutely. And there is something in Strasbourg, actually. I remember seeing it. I don't know, I think somebody told me about it, but it was come to this basically farm and detox from screens. And I just remember vividly, there was a woman running through a field of tall hay. And just, the website was selling that feeling. I want that feeling, so I'm going to go to this retreat. I'm going to go to this farm to get away. So yeah, I love what you said, Mario.
Have you run through hay before?
Yes, I have. My husband's a hay farmer.
Wow. So you have that sort of feeling of excitement.
I can have it in my backyard.
I've never run through hay, so I don't know what that excitement
You're invited to my house.
Nice.
We'll run through.
Hay run later, everyone.
I don't know about that one.
We'll have to tame your hair first. You'll end up with a lot of hay in
not
there.
good. Not
Okay.
good.
I wish we could stay here much longer. Oh, did you have something else?
We have one more thing we have to do, though.
We do, yes.
Yes.
But we're going to wrap up before we do the
Yes,
photo.
yes.
So if you want to come up, ask individual questions at the end. But please give them a huge round of applause for coming out and giving us
great.
their evening.
Thank you all.